How you doing, YouTube? Matt Mess of Beer Reviews, back with yet another review. A little bit of Foley Brothers up in this piece in the form of their Pieces of 8 Imperial India Pale Ale. I can dig me some Foley Brothers. I've had a couple of them as of late, and I'm pretty sure they all come courtesy of Tyler, as this one does. Maybe somebody else sent them off, but I'm kind of excited to give it a whirl because I think the first one I had from these guys I wasn't a huge fan of, but the subsequent two other ones I had were quite nice. The third one I had was the best one of the bunch, and my camera fucked up. I don't have film of it, so it pisses me off. This is that's kind of clear. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's got a subtle haze to it, but in today's beer world, that will not be confused with a full-on hazy. Over an index finger of pillowy, creamy top to it. Pretty relatively tight, compact bubbles, just barely off-white, and it's got that ever so slightest bit of... Today's standard, like I said, would be considered not hazy, but 5 years ago, you'd be like, oh my god, that beer's so fucking cloudy, what's going on? Label-wise, it's okay. I can get down with Foley's labels. They can remind me of, like, Brothers Grimm, like some kind of old-timey kind of fonts and letters and all that kind of stuff, very Lord of the Ringsy or some shit like that. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to dive into this, because this looks like something that's going to be creepily drinkable. Like, if I look at this, what I think is it's going to be dry, it's going to be hop-forward, it's going to be bittering, and it's going to drink thin in a positive way. That's going to be, like, super chuggable. It's like 8%, but it's going to drink, like, 6%, but I'm not going to have a problem with it being that way. That's exactly how this beer looks. Let's see if it actually follows through. Get a nose first, though. Yeah, soft. I mean, soft. Generic fruit vibes. I mean, literally generic, like fruit cocktail. You ever smell fruit cocktail, like the can of the syrup fruit cocktail, but take away that sweetness? That's the kind of fruit medley I get from it, and that ever so sort of like slightest bit of like a tannic tea, like maybe even slightly West Coasty kind of hot bittering vibe, but everything's very, very soft here. Nothing's crazy over the top. You really have to dive into the nose to kind of pull some of that out of there. Yeah, I mean, she just smells like a beer that would get you in all of the danger. It's like, this is probably going to drink now closer from the nose, probably closer to like 5%. And I think I'm going to dig it. It's going to be a soapbox beer where I'll be like, I want this to be 5%. Maybe it is. I don't know. Let's dive in. Let's find out. That's exactly what I thought it would be. I mean, this is danger juice, man. I like this beer. But man, it drinks like a 4% West Coast IPA. If someone made a West Coast Session Pale Ale, this is kind of what you'd expect there. There's a little bit of heft to it in the mouthfeel that lets you know you're drinking something beyond like a 4 or 5% beer. But it's not impactful in a sweet sense. It's not overtly dry, but I would consider it a drier beer. There is sweetness to it, but it definitely does finish dry. The hops are very much kind of a West Coast light kind of thing. That's where that kind of Session Pale Ale thing kind of comes in. But the malt base, there's like a density to it. It's chuggable, it's drinkable, it's not thin, it's not thick, but for the way it drinks, there's a certain heft to the body that lets you know you're drinking something beyond that lower ABV. But that's really all the hint you're going to get off of this. You don't really get any kind of booze component on it. I like it. I like it. And its gentleness, and its simplicity, and its softness, and it's just like, you know how you ever have like a salad or a simple food, a salad, a steak, you know, a hot dog, something simple, and there's nothing in it. There's nothing crazy. It's just either just lettuce, tomato, or, you know, just a burger with not a crazy amount of seasoning and just plain, you know, plain dog, something like that. And it's so simple, and there's nothing to gussy it up. And you eat it, and you're like, this is just really good. Like, there's not any pizzazz to it, but I really do enjoy it for its simplicity. That's where this beer lies for me. Nah, I like it. There's nothing else to say to it. It's like that soft West Coast vibe that drinks like a West Coast Pale Ale. It's got the ever so slightest bump of heft in the mouth, even though I call it light and fluffy and super drinkable and creamy. There is a density to it that lets you know you're drinking something at 8%. Outside of that, it just drinks like a West Coast Pale Ale. Done. Let's talk about it. It's one of the better Imperial IPAs, because we're talking an 8% IPA. No, it's not, but it is. But at the same time, it's one of the more interesting ones. Let's put it that way. If I'm going to classify it, it's not a bad beer. It has to be in that conversation, but in a much different world. It's almost like it wants its own kind of weird, bizarro classification. So it's an interesting beer. Something I would love to try super fresh. Let's jump on that. Oh, they don't have dates on our cans. I'm curious to see how old this is. This is Christmas Eve, 2019. Let me know when this came out, guys. And I'd love to try this fresh and on draft to see what it's like. But anyway, so yeah, it's fun beer. Value and availability, no idea. And leave you with, if you like what we like this beer. If you like West Coast Pale Ales, but you want something that's 8%. But if you also like interesting beer, I don't know, it's a weird one. If you like hoppy beer, if you like hazies, if you like clear beer, even though this would not be considered clear beer by a lot of people, you like clear IPAs, you like those kind of beers, think Maine Brewing, those kind of IPAs, I think you'd really dig this one. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. Hopefully enjoying a little 8% itty bitty West Coast Pale Ale right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers.